Hello and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writing Workshop. This is part one, and I'm just basically going to go over a few things that I think are important about writing science fiction and fantasy. But first, I'll give you a little clue as to who I am. My name is Terry Persun. You can find me at terrypersun.com. It's Terry and Persun.com. I write science fiction and fantasy. I've been doing it for years and years. A lot of science fiction, short stories, horror short stories, fantasy short stories published in a lot of different magazines. And several novels right now, probably 6 or 8, are science fiction and fantasy oriented. My science fiction stems from my background in engineering. I also have a master's in writing, so my engineering background and my writing background kind of combine so that I can work on sci-fi. And so first we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between science fiction and fantasy. And I put it into 3 kind of categories. One of those categories is hard science fiction. And hard science fiction is when the technology is pretty solid. And even if it's a future technology, it's been thought through. Physics-wise, it actually can work. There are ways that pieces fit together on a technological level. And hard science fiction also means that the storyline itself is based on the science. So if you take the science out of the storyline, you basically don't have a real story. So the story kind of falls apart when the science is gone. And when we talk about the science, we're talking about it in an informed manner. I write technical articles all the time, and that's what I do for a living as well as writing science fiction. And so the technology part of it, I understand. So controllers, motors, gears, all that kind of stuff I can throw into a science fiction novel with some clarity because I understand it, and that's hard science fiction. I like to then go into what I call soft science fiction, which are those pieces of science that I don't know as much about, that I do research, but I don't know as much about them. Let's say chemistry, biology, that sort of thing, where I can look things up, I can talk to a chemist or a biologist to try to make sure I'm close, but it's not so important to the storyline that it's going to fail if the science isn't perfect. But it's still basic, and it's still serious enough that the story rotates around that technology. So soft science fiction can also be, I think, forced way into the future, so it's maybe a little bit outside of the realm of what we would call scientifically capable at this stage. So that's hard and soft science fiction. The other thing is fantasy. Fantasy is when you're outside the realms of science altogether, the magic swords and the magic rocks and magicians and things like that. I like to think of shamanism, totem animals, all those kind of things, a little bit more in the fantasy realm, so that it's not something that I can look up technologically and prove using my physics background or anything like that. So those are the things that are that show the differences between those 3. Now there are all these subgenres, alternate history, whether it be hard or soft sci-fi or fantasy, first encounters, military, steampunk, all kinds of ways of looking at science fiction and fantasy world. There can be romantic science fiction or science fiction romance, science fiction mystery, science fiction thriller. So we can do a lot with the whole concept around science fiction. So there are 3 things that I think are very important at this stage, and as a first part 1 here, I'd like to talk about those 3 things. The first thing is to know yourself. What do you like? What do you enjoy? Do you like the science fiction? Do you like to read about the technology? Then and you read a lot of that, or you watch a lot of that kind of television, you like to see the motors and gears and controls that are going into things. I wrote a book called Revision 7 DNA, and it talks about robots. And I understand robots a lot because I've been in the robotics field for years, and so I'm a little more authoritative about what's going on with the robots. I have the second part in that series called Backyard Aliens is the second title, and that one's a little softer science fiction. It's a first contact kind of science fiction where I push the science a little bit into the future, and a little bit so far into the future where, yeah, some of it might be a little tricky to explain, but it's possible. And then my fantasy series is the Doublesight series, which is based on Native American totems. And so those are the key elements in what I've been writing lately in those genres. And so because I'm writing in those genres, and I'm very interested in movies that come out that are science fiction and or fantasy. I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. It's something I enjoy thinking about. So that's the first thing. And so basically know who you are, know what it is you like. And I stepped into the second part of this already, and that's reading. Read in those categories that you like to write in, because you want to know what others are doing. You want to know what's available. I hear sometimes that people say, I don't want to read in the same genre that I'm writing because I'm afraid that I'll take on someone else's voice. And I always tell them, don't even worry about that. Nobody can write like you. Nobody can take the idea and develop it like you would develop it. We know this because we can take a classroom filled with students and give them all one idea, and you've got as many stories as you do students. So don't worry about that. Read in the genre that you enjoy thinking about and writing. And then the third part is to create a ritual. And because we're talking about science fiction, I like to say ritual for science fiction writers is all about space and time. What I'm saying is find a space and find a time that works for you so that you can write every day. Ritual is very important because it becomes a habit after a while, and that keeps you writing and writing and writing. And your writing mind will come to you and be ready if it knows when you're going to do that. So it doesn't matter if you're writing in your bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone else is asleep, or if you're writing at the coffee shop at 3 in the afternoon, whatever time it is. I tend to get up early in the morning and have a cup of coffee and then come to my office and write for an hour or two, a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours sometimes. So time and space, very important with your ritual. So that's the beginning. We're going to talk about a lot of other things here, and I want you to start writing now so that as we add things to this, whether it's dialogue or character or venue or whatever it is, as we add pieces to this, your writing will actually get better and better, and you'll start to incorporate all these things. So this is all practice. So start this ritual right now. Get to writing. I want you writing every day so that as we work through this novel, by the time we're at the end, you've got so much information and you've learned so much that when you go back to do your rewrite, you're going to clean things up much better. So that's the beginning. I hope you like part 1. Part 2 is going to be coming probably in another few days or whenever I get a chance to do this. And welcome. I'm really excited about seeing you write your sci-fi novel or fantasy novel. Thank you, and I'll catch you the next time.